feel like one of the radio stations I used to listen to when I was a kid, where the hits just keep on coming. But here, it's the blooms just keep on coming. So join me today with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 7 plants that are in bloom. And a spoiler alert, they're not all Hoyas this week. They're all lined up over here waiting for you. So let's get started with the first plant. And the first plant up today is Hoya pandurata, Vietnam. This is one of the wild boys. He's just grown into this beautiful, beautiful big plant. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. I know I say that all the time, but, well, and it's always true, but it's true here as well. Let's see if I can get some of these leaves up here. If you take a look at, let's see if that focuses for me. They are just beautiful. He's been a good and steady grower. He's gone from a single little vine with maybe just a few leaves on it to this beautiful plant, and it blooms. If I can, oh, that one won't cooperate. Let's try a different one. It blooms all the time from almost every node. I have to set this down. This has just been a really, really steady plant for me. It's just beautiful. I love the texture of the leaves. He needs a drink. The splash on them, the constant blooms. The only difficulty is he's gotten so big that I have to find a new place for him. A couple weeks ago, he took a header off the edge of the plant shelf, and I was very worried that he wasn't going to make it. So I took a cutting just in case and started that. It rooted like a charm. Like, it couldn't wait to get rooted. And this guy, after a couple weeks, bounced right back. He took a pause, when he fell, he took a pause in the blooming, but then within a couple weeks, he was right back at it. And I'll put, as usual, some pretty pictures of all this over here, but these blossoms are just beautiful. I hope that focused. Just beautiful. He's been a good, I can't say enough good things about this plant. Beautiful leaves, steady grower. I was going to say he's thirsty. He is thirsty, but he's also become kind of a big plant. So yeah, it's warm in the plant room. So yeah, this is one to definitely keep your eyes open for. This is Hoya pandurata, Vietnam. And the next bloomer up today is this Hoya heuschkeliana inner variegation. I know I say it, I love this plant. This is a really beautiful plant, and that's just part of the reason why. It's just beautiful. And this week, for the first time, let's see if I can do this without banging into the microphone or tearing things up. Let's try another one. I got one down here that might. It bloomed for the first time. If that didn't focus, there will of course be pretty pictures over here. This has just been a great, great plant for me. It's sturdy, it's hardy, it never complains, it never gives me any grief. And since I put it into self-watering, it has just gone to town. It clearly appreciates that. I didn't show you the underside of the leaves, did I? That's just really beautiful as well. no trouble, no problems, no temper tantrums, no nothing like that. He has just been a really good plant. I know there's a solid green one, and I think there's an outer variegated, but I haven't looked for either one of those two because this one has been quite enough for me. I mean, that's just really beautiful. I love this variegation. I can't say enough good things about it. It's been so simple, so easy. I would almost consider this a good beginner plant. It did take about maybe a year and a half, 2 years till I got a bloom out of it. But then once I moved it into self-watering and gave it more light, so maybe that was the solution. It wanted a little bit more than I was giving it. But anyway, this is a good one to keep your eyes out for. This is Hoya heuschkeliana, inner variegation. Doing all this work, you know. Now the next plant up is not a Hoya, but it's one of its relatives. This is Dischidia ovata. And this was the first Dischidia I ever purchased. And here's why. That's just incredible. The leaves are absolutely beautiful. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this. We'll give it a try though. It's blooming this week. Now, the blooms are absolutely tiny. And since I'm going to be putting pretty pictures over here, I'll move the plant over here. As I said, it's a Hoya cousin. It's epiphytic. It did really well for me from the very beginning. I had it in a 4-inch net pot in a cover pot. And it was in bark and sphagnum. Yeah, that was pretty much it. There's nothing else in there. And it grew so well that it was drying out that bark sphagnum mix really, really fast. And it had gotten to be, you know, a good sized plant. So I recently lifted the whole thing out of that net pot and set it down in the middle of this 6-inch pot with a wick and self-watering. And it took it a week maybe to recover from his travels. And since then, he's just been growing and started blooming. And this is just, I know. I really like this plant. If I didn't like them, I would find a different home for them. I love the markings. This is sometimes called watermelon Dischidia, but I try not to use any kind of common names because they really don't help. So this is a good gateway Dischidia for you because you can usually find them. They shouldn't be too terribly expensive. They should be fairly well able to be found. That was awkward, wasn't it? Readily available. There's a good, it should be readily available. And again, no trauma, no drama. Even when some of the other Hoyas, it's not a Hoya, but you know, in that same group, were having trouble with flat mites, I really didn't notice them on my Dischidia. Don't take that as science. I'm sure they were there, but it didn't seem as susceptible. Or if they were being bothered. If they were there, I'm sure they were. It wasn't bothering them that much. He got treated anyway for with sulfur, but yeah. This is a good entree into Dischidia. This is Dischidia ovata. And next up, we've got another non-Hoya. This is my Ludisia discolor. And I had shown it earlier in, I think, the video Plants That Grew More Than Expected, and I'll put a link to that video, whatever it was, up here. And you may have noticed a bunch of Hoya bella spent blossoms on it. It lives right beneath one of my Hoya bellas. This is a great little plant. It this has even, let's see if this one will do as well too. It's just very cool. It's a jewel orchid, Ludisia discolor. This is the black variety. And I had seen jewel orchids and I was intrigued with them. I have fairly good luck with, run-of-the-mill Phalaenopsis and other orchids. So I saw this in one of the local plant shops and I thought I'd give it a try. It was in maybe a little 6-inch pot. And the first year it grew really well and it bloomed, put out all kinds of spikes, and I was really happy with it. But that little 6-inch pot looked really, really full. So trying to be a good plant parent, I hate that term, I'm starting to be a good plant collector. I decided it was time to repot it into something larger. So I found this 6-inch pot. It's kind of shallow. These are, I think of them as leaf litter plants, that the root systems tend to spread horizontally rather than vertically. And it's in a mix. There's some potting soil, there's some bark, there's some pumice, there's probably a few little bits of sphagnum in there. And the container is ceramic, it's not terracotta. It's plastic, not ceramic, it's not terracotta. So it doesn't quite dry out as quickly as terracotta would. And this little guy has just been a great grower for me. I really enjoy this plant. If you've considered jewel orchids, this is a great way to get started. They're typically not as expensive as some of the fancier ones. And it's a nice way to figure out whether or not you can provide the kind of care this plant needs, which is really surprisingly minimal. This gets watered weekly. It's in ambient temperature. It's in ambient light. It's not in a special cabinet or cloche or any kind of, it's just out in the plant room. The plant room, in the winter, it's like 68 degrees to 74, 75 degrees. And in the summertime, it's, let's say, 74 degrees up. Well, this last week, which was brutal, it was up around 88 degrees. So whatever the temperature is, what this plant is in, I run a humidifier a bit in the winter in the plant room, but I only raise the humidity to like 60%. And I have forced air heat, so that is kind of needed. But other than that, no special care, no special needs, no problems, no fits, nothing. So if you're interested in jewel orchids, Ludisia discolor black is a great way to start. We had a big storm here the other night, and so chainsaws and leaf blowers have been running almost nonstop for the past 2 days. Anyway, my next little beast is Hoya obovata. And this plant for me is, I feel like it's one of my 6, oh, are you thirsty? I just watered you. I feel like it's a success story. One of the first Hoyas I ever purchased was a Hoya obovata, and I was really new. It came as part of a Hoya starter pack. And of those 3 Hoyas, I think one of them is still alive. Just the one. The poor obovata that came was on a thin vine with these big leaves, and the internet told me to plant it in potting soil and cactus mix. And so to even make that better, because the internet told me at the time that they hated to have their leaves or their roots get wet for any length of time, I put it in terracotta. Well, that was the death sentence for this plant. This is number 2, and it has done really well since I corrected some of those issues. The leaves are just incredible. Very, very pretty. Nice big round leaves. Not rigid, but they're firm. A little glossy on the top, maybe a little pubescent on the bottom. And this week, let's see if I can do this with, maybe, let's try this. This week, nope, that's gonna snap, and I don't want that to happen. All right, so this week, it bloomed. And the blooms have been just beautiful. This is the first time this has bloomed for me. And of course, you're probably looking at them right now, pretty pictures over here. And it's got 2 peduncles in bloom right now. There's 2 more on this vine. There's another one up here and another one up there. This has been really good. My experience with this, oh, there's one right there in front of me, has been that it wants access to moisture. This is growing, at this point, fairly close to the grow light. So it wants decent light. The splash in the leaves gets a little pink under bright light. And you're going to need some room for this one once it takes off. The vines are pretty stiff. If you're going to trellis it on like something like this, a round trellis, you need to get on those vines right away and train them. Otherwise, as I am finding out, they're going to go their own way. And I can live with that. I'll figure that out. We'll work something out for this. But yeah, this is a good plant. It's kind of good for beginners because, number one, you can usually find it. The fancy variegated ones are usually pricey, but the plain green ones are not as pricey. Hoya prices are like, let's see what we can get away with. But this has been a fun one for me. It's growing like crazy the last 6 months. So combination of food, self-watering, and good light, and this is doing really great. This is a really fun one. This is Hoya obovata. And the next 2 are kind of an update of things I've shown you earlier. They were all budded up, and I said if they bloomed that I would update you. So this is my Hoya lockii. He's not looking his best. He got a little dry. It's been really warm here, and the plant room got really warm, and these thin-leafed Hoyas don't take kindly to getting dry. So he's been given a drink. He should pop back shortly. I think the leaves are really nice. There's a little bit of splash in them. There's a little bit of texture. But recently, my Hoya lockii bloomed for the first time. And I think the blooms they looked better when he was hydrated. They remind me a bit of Hoya multiflora, except that they're solid white, which is specifically why I ordered this one. I have the multiflora, which you've seen, and I wanted something that didn't have that orange on it. So I decided to go for something pure white. This has been a really good grower when you remember to water it and keep it hydrated. I know, I'm evil. It's grown really well. It's putting out new growth. It has peduncles on about half of the nodes, which is good. I'm waiting for this last group here to start opening. Probably it needed a drink before it decided to do that, and now that it has one, maybe it will cooperate. But blooms are really lovely, really glad it bloomed for me. I'm sure you've seen pretty pictures. So just wanted to keep you posted on this one. This is Hoya lockii. And the last one up today is another one of the wild boys that I told you I'd keep you updated about when it bloomed, and it has. So here he is back again. This is Hoya chinghungensis, and there's just, you heard the story. It grows really, really well. It grows these beautiful, big, arching vines with great little leaves, and see if I can do this well. This last week the blooms opened, and they're very pretty. And I'm sure there are pretty pictures rolling by right now. I'm so thrilled with this plant. I can't recommend it enough. It is thirsty. How thirsty is it? Not too bad. It's been worse. It is thirsty. It doesn't like to dry out. It wants, in my case, it seems to like a little bit of good bright light. And it's just going to town. All this growth is in about 7 months. There's another peduncle down here that's getting ready to open. So all this growth, oh, there's another vine there. Oh, that's very cool. All this growth, 7 months, blooms, 7 months, cute leaves, nice vines, good growth. Yeah, nothing but good to say about this Hoya chinghungensis. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Remember to click that thumbs up like button and the subscribe button. They're both really important to the channel. If you'd like to contribute financially, you can click on the link to the Buy Me a Coffee page, which is down in my description. And a lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront. I get a commission on the sales, but it doesn't affect your price. And that link is also down in the description. I'm going to post links to a couple more videos you might like here and here. And enjoy the rest of your week's end.